Louisville, national champions, 1980.
Cardinals have won the national championship. 75th NCAA college basketball champions.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Third Banner Pod. This is episode number 63, and we are approaching 1 year on YouTube here and on the pod. Congrats on that, everybody. I'm glad to have you guys tonight. We've got Kyle, Pat, Ross, and I'm your host, Ash, here tonight. And I'm glad to have everybody. Welcome. I know that there's been a lot of drama going around with the search. I'm 10 days away from moving from Texas to Louisville, so I really haven't paid that much attention as much as I would like. So fill me in, guys.
Man, first off, Ray, welcome. Henry, Couch House, Doom Fan, Jason, AR Sheriff. Nice to see you guys. Eric, oh man, you know what? I'm not gonna be able to keep up with everybody.
Welcome, everybody.
What is up?
Somebody says, anything happening lately, Doom Fan? I mean, by lately, do you mean like in the last 10 minutes? Because there may have been something. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. So from the moment, like last night after the game, when Deener sent that tweet, Drew Deener, which, oh, by the way, he sent another one for tomorrow. I think this is going to be like a daily thing. We're going to call it the Daily Deener tweet, where he sends out a new scoop. Like 2 days from now, he's going to be like, a coach with a mustache has moved up to number 2 on the list, but a coach with hair has been taken off of the list.
I prefer Daily Dose of Diener.
Daily Dose of Diener, triple D.
I mean,
you gotta get your Daily Dose of Diener.
Today was essentially the NBA trade deadline for Louisville basketball, man.
That's what it felt like, because
it feels like that, yep.
All of a sudden, like, we go from hearing nothing from Louisville's side to getting 2 bits of information back to back, very big bit. And that was before the recruiting stuff happened, which is still currently happening. You got Joson Sanon, who's visiting right now, or Sanon, sorry. I keep saying Joson Sanon is visiting right now, and we'll get into all that too, because that's absolutely crazy. I see we've already got a lot of people in here tonight, so if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Like this episode so it gets through the algorithm, and please subscribe if you like what you hear here on the Third Banner Pod.
Yep.
So I'm going to get into it, guys. So this morning, obviously, we were all awaiting the tweet. There was a lot of rumblings last night from people who knew what was going on, that, hey, there are a couple of big names. I think we all kind of suspected Scott Drew was going to be the top priority guy. We've heard that for a while. A lot of people have heard that for a while, that if Josh Hurt could get a coach, if Louisville could get a coach, they would probably, if they could handpick one, it would be Scott Drew, from everything we've heard. So if that's wrong, it's wrong, but it sure sounds like it is. And that's what happened this morning on Deener's show on 93.9 The Ville. He's on there with Mark Blankenbaker every morning from 7 to 10 every weekday morning, and he broke that on there, that indeed we are going after Scott Drew. But there was a second candidate that everybody was kind of, hinting around last night. There's another guy, and he's out of left field, and Drew Deener called him a long shot candidate, but he did bring up Billy Donovan, which, by the way, it is not a coaching search until Billy Donovan's name gets thrown into the ring. I've not seen one yet. So first off, before I share my thoughts, what were your all's thoughts when you all heard that this morning? Like your first
Paging
thoughts?
Brad Howard.
Who?
It's not a search without Brad Howard, man. You got to throw him in there. He's looking at horse property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
what were your first thoughts?
I mean, excited, man. We finally get some info from our side. I feel like it's kind of been a slow trail of agents leaking stuff, and this seems like the first time that I think Josh has made his move to get names out there, to whether it's to apply pressure or just, get the fan base excited, whatever it is. This is the first time I think Josh was like, yeah, let's put this out there. So I was excited.
So my understanding is, and I may be wrong here, but it sounds like Deener did not get pushed by Josh to do this. It sounds like Deener took this on his own. I don't know where he got it from. I have no idea. But that's just what it came across from somebody that apparently talked to him about that and had said, like, he wanted people to know that, I feel like. So that's why I just say that. He was like, look, guys, because some people question, they were like, why would you put this out? Because, there was a whole thing of, does this put pressure on Scott Drew? Because you don't have the leverage to do that. Like, you can't go up to the guy like Scott Drew and be like, hey, man, you've got a week to make a decision. You're on the clock, because he's going to, if he's ready to make a decision, really wants to come, he will. But if he's not, he's going to tell you he's not ready, and then it's your choice to move on. But if he's your top candidate, then, you've got a really tough decision to make there, because he kind of holds all the leverage there. So I do understand that. And that's where people were kind of like, well, this wasn't from Josh Hurd. It was just information given. So somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there, but my understanding is that was not pushed from our university. But my first thoughts, Pat, were like, this is going to be unpopular. I know it is, but I was kind of hoping it wasn't Billy Donovan that was a long shot candidate. And my reason isn't because Billy Donovan is not a Hall of Fame coach. He absolutely is. But Billy Donovan has been out of the college game for 10 years, and he said, like, in January, he came out with an article where he said he doesn't like the way college basketball is heading. He's not a big fan of the portal and NIL. So, yeah, Billy Donovan's a GOAT. He's a top 50 coach of all time. You could argue top 30 coach of all time. And I wouldn't have a problem saying that. What he did at Florida was phenomenal. But I feel like a couple of people this morning were like, boom, Billy D, baby. And here's what I'll say. I'm not saying that if Billy Donovan wanted to come here, we don't take Billy Donovan. Don't get me wrong.
And we'd all be excited about it too.
Yeah, Billy Donovan would have our asses in seats from game one. We would be on the map. Like, PR-wise, it would be such a big boom. It would be like an atomic bomb. Billy Donovan at Louisville. Like, we would immediately go from, like, laughing stock that we've been for the last few years due to scandals and due to the product on the court to all of a sudden, boom, you got Billy freaking Donovan. Like, that cannot be understated. And it's not like I think he'd come here and do terrible where we'd, like, be bad. I just think recruiting-wise, I think, there would be a major learning curve in the portal. You'd have to readjust to college basketball, which is a lot different than the NBA. I think he could do it, but I don't think, like, I guess I wasn't, like, over the moon. Like, some people were like, there's no way you can question this. And then I heard people saying I would take him over Scott Drew in a heartbeat. And that's where I kind of was like, why? I mean, yeah, he's got his 2 national championships, but Scott Drew's rolling right now, and he's been in the portal NIL period. So, I mean, goodness gracious, like, Scott Drew, if we could land him, and props to Josh Hurd for putting it all out there and taking his swing. My understanding is he has been working at this for several months. And he's been, accumulating a lot of, doing all of his due diligence that he has to do. And he's really zeroed in on Scott Drew. It is a long shot. I still think it's a long shot. I think Billy Donovan is a complete, I'm going to be honest. I'm just honest with the viewers, a fantasy. I mean, but I understand why Deener would push it. I'm saying he said it was a long shot. So that's not a shot at Drew Deener. I'm saying, like, I agree that it's a long shot. And by a long shot, I just don't think it's going to happen. A lot of places throw Billy Donovan's name in their coaching searches. I just don't
like
see it.
Jay Gruden
in the NBA. And what do you guys think? What do you guys think?
I agree with you. And I've said that all along, that I don't really have an interest in bringing any coach in that really doesn't have experience navigating NIL or the transfer portal. So that goes for Jay Wright as well. Now, would I get excited if I saw one of those coaches be named the next head coach? Yeah, it would be some excitement, but I would have some major trepidation over any coach that comes in with zero experience navigating those waters. And I can't imagine doing that. I am totally shocked that Scott Drew is as prominent of a name right now as it has been. To me, that has been One guy that I thought would never leave anywhere. Not that he is leaving. Let's not say that, I'm making any predictions.
Right.
This isn't a football recruit or anything, that's committed to LSU or anything like that. Long time watchers know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, OG third banner watchers. No.
But
Pepperidge Farm.
I'm trying to find the comment. Oh yeah, Big D says Ash might not be the only person getting ready to move from Texas to Louisville. Yeah, I'm going to be in Waco Saturday, so maybe I'll just swing by and
pick him
talk
up
to Scott myself. So
you can get him, and then go get Moore from Austin, and call it a party, man.
Yeah.
So my biggest takeaway from what Deener said this morning was what he didn't say. He kind of glossed over, well, I don't know who coach number 2 would be if we don't get number 1, talking about Scott Drew. But there's a guy in line who would take the job. And that is where my focus immediately went, because I'm just being honest when I say I don't think we're going to get Scott Drew, and I hope I'm wrong. There are people out there that think we have a chance and a fighting chance, and there are people that are very credible that think we have a fighting chance. There's a whole lot of people that don't, that are very credible. So when that happens, and I don't know, and we don't know on here, we have to kind of just use discernment the best way we can. And for me, I just know he's been rooted there so long. He's got a lot of things going on in Waco besides just coaching Baylor. Like, he is established there, not only career-wise, but his family is established there. And I mean, when I say rooted, he's been very rooted. So this would be an incredible haul by Josh Hurd, and you absolutely have to try. But if I had to guess, I don't think we're going to land them, and I hope I'm wrong. But if I don't think we're going to land them, and I don't think Billy Donovan's like a very realistic candidate, then I have to look at who is number 2, who apparently would take the job. And I've tossed and turned over that for a while, and I've seen so many different rumors of who it was. People that claim, like, I definitely know it's this guy. I don't know. But then other people come in later and they're like, that is not who it is at all. So I don't know who to believe. I hope it's not what Drew Goodman thinks, because that's another thing. So Drew Deener comes out with this list of like the Avengers of coaches. And then all of a sudden, like, Jeff Goodman's like looking for like middle school boys basketball coaches he can throw in his article for the Louisville job. His article title, at least the Louisville section that was snippeted and screenshot to me, said, Louisville not looking at a big name hire. And then like his first sentence was like, Louisville fans may be disappointed to hear this, but, and it was basically like, they're not going to take anybody that's got an $8 million or more buyout. They're not going to take anybody that has any sort of PR hit. And they said even Eric Musselman and his PR, which he hasn't really had a major PR hit other than like people apparently don't get along with him, but he's not had any real scandals or anything. I mean, it's like if you have a demerit from middle school, you're off the list, according to Jeff Goodman. Like, if you got caught jaywalking, you're no longer allowed to be the Louisville basketball coach. So I go from being like way up here after hearing Drew Deener, and then Jeff Goodman just like has it crashing down. And so I have to now decide, like, does anybody really know what the hell's going on around here?
Yeah, man, the Goodman stuff, man, I hope Goodman never listens to our pod, because
I don't care.
I hope he does, and I hope he says some shit. That's what I said.
I didn't wear my orange.
But man, I'll be honest. I've been a Goodman hater ever since he hated on Gorgie.
I forgot about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I mean, somebody find that tweet. That was when I said,
yeah, somebody send that to us.
Jeff Goodman is a clown, because he completely never seen Gorgie play, and thought, people were pumped about Gorgie. And he said something along the lines of Louisville fans excited about Gorgie Jang, some unknown, recruit from Africa or something like that.
From a foreign land.
Yeah. So I've never liked Goodman. I don't think he likes Louisville.
Somebody made that account that's in our Discord. I know they did.
I don't think he likes Louisville, and
that don't matter anyway.
And that's when I found out him and Chris Mack were friends. That's when I should have known it was going off the rails with Chris Mack. So I don't know how much stock to put in that Goodman stuff. I know he knows a lot. I'll say
he is close with Scott Drew. I will say that
he
very
knows a
close.
lot. But I also feel like he always is trying to dig at Louisville. So
I think he does it to a lot of fan bases, just to be honest. I think it's a stick.
Doesn't he have
some of that was
like top 10
clickbait.
craziest fan bases, and he like tweets it out or something, and he changes it?
Yeah, he's not my favorite. But I want to hit on, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because
that was my reaction, Kyle.
That's got to be a joke. It might not be.
It might not be.
He says Trevor Edwards says Sanon is at the UK game right now. Kenny just got him to UL for him to go to UK. I'll have to look that up. I have no idea if that's true. If he's joking, don't be trolling.
Be trolling us.
Be trolling us, man. But I mean, I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
Yeah. But I want to hit on Donovan, who I'm like you. I think it's a kind of a fairy tale, but I disagree with you and Ash on. Now, there's probably 2 or 3 guys I'd rather have than him, but I think he'd be an absolute home run hire. You look at, there's probably about 7-8 coaches in the past 20 years or so that have gone from college to the NBA back to college. 2 prominent ones that had success similar to Donovan before going to the NBA are Rick Pitino and John Calipari. When they came back, they had success. Other ones with less success than Donovan, but still successful, that went to the NBA and came back. Linebacker, Tim Floyd, Leonard Hamilton, Mike Montgomery. All those guys went to the NBA, came back, at least made an Elite 8 when they came back. Except for Montgomery, he did not. But this going to the NBA and coming back, I don't think is as big of a deal as it's made out to be. Now, in Donovan's case, he's gone to the NBA. He's been there for a while. Some of these other guys weren't there for a while. But in terms of recruiting the portal, dealing with NIL, I don't see much of a hindrance there other than the fact that he said he didn't like the whole system, which a lot of current college coaches have said. But, dealing with the portal is more like the NBA than it was the old college game.
Real quick, this guy is at the UK game. Joe Tipton.
We have multiple people saying it in the
chat. I've got the tweet. Joe Tipton tweeted that he's at the UK game. He's going to be in attendance at the UK game tonight. That's sheer insanity.
We need to redo our top 20 list.
That would make number 1.
Well, that's Kenny
pushing
his middle finger.
He's pushing him there. You can't tell me he came to town tonight. I mean, you don't come to commit here and then. Wow. You know what? I don't want to get way off topic.
I'm already getting mad.
That is true. Trevor was not trolling us.
The kid ends up at your arch rival 60 miles down the road on his visit to your campus.
It cannot end soon enough. It can't. It's like every second that this ticks on, more bullshit. It just gets worse.
It's absurd at this point.
Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, just to wrap it up, like on Donovan, I think again, there's about 2 or 3 guys I'd rather have than him because he is out of college for 10 years, and I'm not sure he really wants to recruit. And if that's the case, I think it's a no-brainer. Hey, man, it's not going to work. But if he comes in here and he wants to do the rigors of the college game and get out there, I think he's a home run hire, man. And it's not something it was something I was excited to hear. But Scott Drew would still he'd be my number 1 guy out there that I'd like to have.
It'd be incredible, man. If you pull that off,
it would be incredible. He's the whole package. He can recruit. He can coach the X's and the O's. He's a motivator. He seems to have a good culture there at Baylor. There's some fit maybe issues with here with his, personality in terms of, he's a Southern Baptist, we're more of a Catholic town, but I don't think that'll be an issue. If we got Scott Drew, we should give Hurd an extension because that is an absolute unbelievable hire.
Yeah. I'll just piggyback off of what you all have said, and I'll try to keep it short. I have been adamant on this pod for many episodes, many months now, that Scott Drew is the absolute only home run hire that Louisville could land at this time. Like, even if it is a long shot, he's the guy. You're not going to pull a Hurley out of UConn right now. You weren't going to get, some of the other guys. That just wasn't going to happen. And Drew might be, in the end, he might just stay and use the U of L job again as leverage to get more commitment from the program, get more money, get more years on his contract. But it sure sounds like there's some real talking and some real listening going on back and forth. It sounds like things are continuing to develop tonight, based on some things that I've seen and heard. But, I think Billy Donovan, I think being away from the college game for 10 years is a huge deal, just because the recruiting in ties that he once had, or a lot of those are gone. You look at people that are at the grassroots level, they've moved way up into different jobs now, or just completely out of recruiting. Like, it's all brand new crops of people. He's going to have to develop entirely new recruiting networks and ties, and that takes time. So I think that the rebuild with somebody like a Billy Donovan would be longer than it would with like a Scott Drew. The other person I've been very adamant about getting, and I know he's polarizing, but he was my second choice, is Beard. Chris Beard would be a great option. I know that there's things to be said about that, where you don't have to get into all that right now. We can dive further if that goes that way, but
I wouldn't
to fall potentially on to Chris Beard, for him to land in your lap if you didn't get a Drew, would be absolutely insane. Okay. I mean, that to me, that would tell me, is from our fan perspective, looking at Hurd would have swung for the fences with Drew, Beard, and Billy D, long shot, right? And if he got one of those guys, that's pretty damn awesome, man. I mean, the guy would deserve a lot of credit for that hire. So I'm pretty excited where it's all going right now. And obviously, the longer we don't hear Drew deny it, the better off we are. I do think in the next, couple of days, we're probably going to hear Baylor having some conversations behind doors with Drew. I think that will come out. And then that's going to be like the next development, and we're going to see how it rolls from there. So if it keeps rolling and it doesn't get turned down, it's more positive for U of L. So I would just say, guys, just everybody hang in there, and let's just keep our fingers crossed, because we are due some good news, man. I mean, we've been getting shit on for 6-7 years now. I'm so tired of it. So
there's a lot of information coming out about different coaches and stuff, and like especially today. Like, I know some people got some information that Beard was still high up a candidate, but right before we got on, I was informed absolutely not. It's not happening. So we all get different stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. I tend to trust where I heard that it's not even a possibility. And I understand other people, though, hear different. And I mean, to be honest, I don't think any of us know really. I just wanted to give that, because I don't want anybody thinking like, oh, well, they're definitely saying he's definitely the second guy. Like, there's rumors of that out there. And there's also rumors that he's not being considered at all. And it's just, it's hard to know right now. And there's been so much come out. And even starting with the 2 reports that were released by media guys that couldn't have been more polarizing as far as realistic candidates. I do think it's very interesting, the number 2 candidate, whoever it is, because that's who I think we're going to end up with. This morning, And I still have a lot of concerns about if Dusty May can make it happen here. But his name keeps coming up. His name
He's
came
going
up.
to Ohio State, bro.
That's what a lot of people think, and I mean it's possible, but Ohio State.
I think he's using U of L as leverage for him and his agent to get more of whatever they want at the bargaining table with Ohio State to put pressure on them. You got to have somebody else coming after
how do you know
you.
he's not using Ohio State to get here? We don't know. So,
I mean that's true. I mean we don't.
So I don't know. I just worry
because
like I know some people really. Deener even threw his name out. Deener said, I'm just giving an example. He didn't say it as in like Dusty May's the guy. But it's interesting. That's the first name that popped in his head.
Blank had a lot of fun with that this morning.
And then, Jeff Goodman, that was the first name on his list of candidates he thought we could get. So that was the only commonality I saw on both of their stories was Dusty May. And I know there's a guy, long-time message board posters. There's a guy that's been there for 20-something years who I'm not going to say his username just because I'm not putting a spotlight on him, but everybody who posts on there knows who he is.
He's pretty much the man.
He pretty much is the man.
Yeah.
And he has said recently that he thinks it's either Scott Drew or Dusty May.
God,
I don't know. But then you hear other people like Mike Rutherford on his show today. What did he say? He said, I think the second candidate, and he admitted the same that we're saying, like he doesn't really know. He's speculating. So I want to make that clear. We're speculating. He's speculating. But he thinks it's either Muss or Cronin, if he had to guess. So, like, you just hear so many different things. But to me, that's what we need to know. We need to know there's a guy who apparently has agreed in principle to take it. And here's my theory. I don't think it's going to be a huge name because I don't think they'd be willing, if they were this big elite coach, I don't think they would be willing to just say, yeah, let Scott Drew take his time. And if he goes there, then I'm fine. But I can be second to Scott Drew. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like for a coach, like, I don't know, like a Bruce Pearl, for example, just throwing a name out there. Like, I don't think Bruce Pearl would be like, oh, dude, I totally get why you would go after Scott Drew first. Like, coaches are petty like that. If they know that they're not your top guy and you are at that elite level, they usually don't want to wait around. So
unless it's a coach of that stature, but they've got some baggage on them as to why many more programs aren't coming to get them.
It's possible.
Somebody like a Beard or a Will Wade.
Yeah, well,
Will Wade would be my dream. I mean, obviously, I love Beard, but Will Wade would be my dream.
There's so many people that hate on Wade.
I don't understand it because Wade, not only has he proven it on the court with his, coaching at McNeese after being relieved at LSU, but also the swagger of him basically just saying "F you" to the NCAA. To me, that's something that should revive our fan base around him. Like,
we could have used it.
Yeah, like to me, that's just like the swag that he exudes by doing that. Just I don't know. To me, that makes a slam dunk. And to me, that would be my number two at this point. Like,
I know his campus talked with our side. I don't know how much our side really wants Will Wade. I won't claim to know. I haven't heard a whole lot of. I've heard a couple. There's like a pocket of people that all think he's really like a realistic candidate. I don't know if they're right or not, or if they're just hoping it's him.
I am not in on
you get a lot of people that push their guy, but there's like a little bit of like unconscious bias in there. I try my hardest not to do that because if I'm doing that, I'm pushing Scott Drew, and I'm going to really talk myself into thinking that we're definitely getting Scott Drew, but I want to be like honest with myself too. So, but candidate number 2, if it's not Scott Drew, is who I'm most focused on. Is it a guy that's really high up? I just have a hard time. I think it's going to be a little bit.
Is it a guy? I was like, please don't be like Connor and say Becky Hammond.
Trolling. But seriously though, like, is it a guy that's at a high level, or is the second guy a guy that's probably an up and comer? And my guess is it would be the latter. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but man, it does come with there's just not a whole lot of like home run hires. And the ones that there are, most of them do come with some major baggage. So,
yeah, I mean, the number 2 option scares me.
It scares me, but I think that's what we're looking at.
Because, I mean, again, we'll go back to Goodman's little snippet. I mean, the people he named as the number, guys
Jordy's right.
He thought we were going to hire were Dusty May, who we can go on and on. Kyle can spend the whole episode.
Old Dustbuster.
Dustbuster.
Josh Shirts, who I like Josh Shirts.
I like Josh Shirts.
But
I do too.
it's
I
like
think I took him over. Man.
you got to have a few people say no before you go to him.
Right.
Pat Kelsey, please no.
I know nothing about Pat Kelsey. I don't claim to know anything about him or Medvec at Colorado State.
Yeah. Nico Medvec, no.
Know nothing about him.
Lamont Paris, he looks good this year, but he's kind of like, and Jerome Tang, those two kind of fit in the same mold. They could be really good. They could be average. So yeah, that second, figuring out who the second person is scary in the sense that we want a home run here. And obviously Drew's a home run, but I want that second guy to be as near of a home run as possible. And some of these guys mentioned are just not that to me.
I mean, I think Beard's that, but there's some other good candidates, but none of them, like, I think what you're kind of getting at, and like we've talked about before, none of them have like the flash of being like a major land, so like that's the worry, because again, it just goes back to, there's not, besides Drew and Beard, minus the off the court stuff, or Wade, the off the court stuff, there's not a guy that checks every box, and there's just not any of those people available. And it's not waters that we're used to treading in. So I can get where Baylor fans are coming from, that they think that we have no chance. I get it. I mean, he has been there for 20 years. He's turned down U of L job.
You don't want to lose your legacy guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's turned down U of L twice already. He's turned down many other jobs in that second tier of blue bloods.
Turned down IU twice, and he's from Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but he went to that program and literally brought them from the cellar, took them all the way to prominence, became national champions.
I mean, more than just the cellar.
Yeah, I mean, coffin, I guess we should say, but RIP. But I mean, it's just like, what else? He used, the last couple of times of job opportunities, used that to help parlay more commitment from the boosters and Baylor's athletic department to get the the Foster Pavilion that they've got now that they're playing in brand new this year. I mean, he's done everything for that school. Like, even if he left, it's not like Baylor is going to ultimately long-term like crap on him and hate him forever. He's going to be a legacy and an icon there forever. One thing that Baylor cannot offer him that Louisville can is, we are a traditional blue blood. And I think that, Baylor's coming into that realm. If they can carry this on for another, 10 years and win another championship or so, that they could possibly move into that second tier. But the other thing is that he can move into a very, very small group of coaches that has won national championships at multiple schools. That list is very small. And these guys, like y'all were saying earlier, they like to stack themselves up and compare themselves to their peers big time. They've got big egos. It's part of the reason that they're drawn to the job. And the ones that are the best at it, like somebody like a Drew now, like he has worked and fought and overcome a lot of different adversity to get to that point. So like, he's looking at his own legacy as well. And, there's something that Louisville can offer that Baylor just can't. And it goes vice versa. It goes the other way too. There's things that Baylor can offer that we just can't. It really comes down to, what does him and his family choose to decide? I think I'm choosing to believe, and I really do believe it. Like I do. I think our chances are much, much better than what people are giving us right now. I really do believe that. Nobody even thought it was even going to make it to this point. Like we've had candidates before. We've had candidates before Scott Drew in the past weeks and months. We had talks of Oates. And then before that, it was Muss for weeks. And then it was Cronin before that. None of those talks, though, made it as far as where we are right now with Scott Drew. This is different. And the reason that this has come out right now is, one, the timing of how late it is in the season. Secondly, I think Hurd and it's not Hurd, but we clearly have people, and Drew and his people probably have people that they felt this was like the right time. Whoever let this out, they felt that this was the right time for this to get out. So this is a big step in a real direction. We finally got some sort of extra confirmation today that not only is this moving, it sounds like there's real talks and negotiations. Possibly they're listening, and there's possibly chatter going back and forth. But more importantly, Hurd has guys that he's looking at, and he is looking, which means Kenny is gone. There is going to be no year 3. This is done. And I think a lot of us assume that, but now we know it. It's done.
Yeah.
It is not.
Now he's got guys he took on a visit who
I kind of agree with
games.
what you're saying, Ross. I kind of agree with what you're saying. Ty makes an excellent point about Baylor's a new age blue blood. And for all the reasons that Ty has mentioned many times on this show and in the chats, I will believe Scott Drew is leaving Baylor for another job when I see it. Like, he's got so much going right there. And when you've lived somewhere for 20 years, I don't care where you were born. If you've lived somewhere for 20 years, that's home. Especially, your kids are there. You've built that program. That Waco is home for him at this point. Yeah. Like his whole his roots are there at this point. And I just will only believe he's leaving there when I actually see a press conference that he is on his way to another school. Now, I would love it if it's at U of L. That's my number one choice. So, if he would come to the University of Louisville, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both hit on some big things there. I don't think for Drew, if it's, if they are in talks, like it sounds like they are, I don't think the decision's going to be because of basketball or money. I think the decision's going to be, do I want to leave the community that, I'm ingrained in? I've been here for 20 years. I've done a lot for this community. I'm entrenched in the community. Do I want to leave that? Do I want or does my family want to leave that? I think that is the deciding factor. I don't think it's, do I want to stay with Baylor because they're in a better spot
the Big
now
12
than U of L? Do I want to go to U of L because the NIL money is going to be better? Do I want someone to pay me the most money? I don't think the decision's going to be based solely on that stuff. And I think that's going to go to the background to, hey, do I want to leave this community that I have entrenched myself
I actually think whoever the coach is, NIL is going to be in my opinion, I could be completely wrong, but in my opinion, if it's a high up coach, NIL is going to be the thing that needs to be the difference maker. Because if somebody's rooted in their community, they're established coach, whether it's a Scott Drew or somebody else, then it has to be something that pulls them from that place beyond just like, hey, Louisville used to be really good at one time and we have a tradition. That's not enough. And I know people bring up we have like a really nice arena. Well, no coach is, I'm just being honest. A coach isn't going to be like, I want to go to Louisville and uproot my whole family because they have a nice arena. It's going to take them feeling like if I come to Louisville, I have the ability through NIL to get anybody I want. If it's going to be a high up coach, now I'm not talking about somebody that's lower end, that's like an up and comer, because they're going to go, yeah, I'd love to come to Louisville. It's an ACC. It's a past power. The big arena, those things do play a part. But when you're talking about Scott Drew, when you're talking about Nate Oates, when you're talking about those kind of names, they have to feel like their job is going to be easier. And what's the easiest way? When I say easier, I don't mean that like you still don't have to like work your ass off. I mean like the resources available are going to make it easier to achieve the utmost ability and to win a championship. Because these guys that none of them besides Scott Drew have won championships. We're not getting Danny Hurley. We're not getting Bill Self. So all these other names are still trying to do that. So that would be what I'd be trying to pitch if I'm Josh Hurd to the higher up guys, is like, where you're at may have some resources, but he has to have us in a position to have the resources to take that next step for a big name coach. And I think NIL is the thing that we have to beat a drum in. I don't know if our NIL is like above some of these other programs. I know we have a really good NIL program, but it just depends on what program we're comparing. Like Alabama, for example, I don't know if our NIL is better than theirs, but it's damn well going to have to be if Nate Oates, you decide, okay, you really want Nate Oates, Drew says no. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just throwing a name out there. Then you're going to have to make sure your NIL is better than Alabama's. And I really think that that's where we have to go if we're going to get one of these bigger names. There's not a lot of them to choose from. So you have to really, really position yourself as a school with unlimited basketball resources.
Yeah, I'll let Ross go right now, but I just want to say, to follow that up, I think our NIL is at a great level, and I think the evidence is that Scott Drew is talking to us. I don't think he'd give us the time of day if our NIL wasn't at an elite level.
Yeah, I agree, and I wanted to hit on a point that Brad said in the chat just a little bit, maybe a couple minutes ago, talking about, what was the comment? It was I was going to go up here. Sorry, I lost it. I just want to make sure I got the comment right. Give me a second. Sorry. Baylor is a religious school, and that means a lot to Drew. Yeah. I think we all are aware of that. That's been very well documented. He's said as much in his book about what the community means to him, what the school means to him. They are the largest Baptist school in the world. But I hit on this earlier, and I think some might think it's kind of funny, but I mean, it's not like the city of Louisville doesn't have a lot of Mayberry vibes here. And not to mention, we're dead smack in the middle of the Bible Belt. And even though we are a progressive city, we are a very religious city. People don't really tend to pay attention, but the Southern Baptist Convention headquarters is here in Louisville, Kentucky. The Southern Baptist Seminary is here in Kentucky. Not to mention, there's a huge Catholic population, and there's an archdiocese here. So, I mean, it's not like he would be completely just just like a black swan here. It's not like that. It wouldn't be like that. Like, there's still a lot of things that are very endearing about Louisville that would appeal to him, the person, not the coach, the person, to be here. Then you put on top of that, you've got that Louisville brand behind you. We're still, I'm pretty sure, a top 5 apparel school as far as our apparel contract in the country. I think we're still top 5. I think UCLA is number 1 now, but pretty sure we're right there in the top 5. And then you've got a huge arena, and maybe that's not a big draw to Drew, but again, in a city like Louisville, in a state like Kentucky, college sports hits different than anywhere else. It hits way different. The fact that when we're at our best, we're able to fill 22,000 seats pretty regularly, and to hear that many people supporting you and your program a night in and night out, that's a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage that other schools cannot give you. And the vibe in the fandom, the fanaticism about college sports in this town and in this state is way different than just about anywhere else. And I can't understate that enough. I just cannot understate that enough. And Drew's got a real chance here to to do something very, very special. He may turn it down, but I'm just saying
does.
This could be something tremendous. Tremendous.
Yeah. So I did want to, we would be remiss. We've talked a lot about the, Deener's information today on 93.9. We've talked a lot
daily dose of Deener.
We've talked a lot about Goodman stuff, but we have to talk about, after all of this, we're all going to mulling over all this information. While my understanding is, I don't want to say too much on that yet. Obviously, Kenny Payne's going to be gone at the end of the year. I think we've all accepted that. The timing of when that could happen, I might get into that a little bit later. It won't be tonight. But it was just funny that while all that was going on,
Notre Dame's the number one brand.
We get information about 2 recruits. Carter Knox is deciding at the end of this week, probably, and we're hearing that maybe he's going to pick Louisville. And then we hear about Joson Sanon, and we hear that he's visiting. And so he comes, and the weirdest part about it is he tweets that he's not visiting. He's like, Trilly Donovan leaks that he's visiting, or tweets, I'm sorry. He tweets that he's visiting, and then all of a sudden, what happens? He
tweeted a picture of Johnny 5 80s memorabilia. That's what he tweeted out. No? That wasn't Johnny 5 from Short Circuit?
Is that the actual Zach Soskin? Because I've actually got a tweet pulled up I was going to read of his, so without his permission. Now I feel like I have to ask.
No way that's
but anyway,
that is absolutely Zach Soskin.
Zach, I was going to read a tweet of yours, man, about the
welcome, Zach, man. Thanks for joining us.
So anyway, now we hear that Sanon is going to the UK game. We heard it while we were live on here. All of a sudden it leaks out that he is going to the UK game tonight. Can this not end soon enough? When is this going to, it is just one thing after another. It's comical. So he's funneling players now through us. Players that, by the way, he has not even come close to getting here on visits. Besides Carter Knox, when, oh, by the way, his job was rumored to be on the line then. So I just love how all of a sudden he busted his ass recruiting at UK for them. He comes here, doesn't land most of the guys, doesn't really recruit the portal, spends forever in New York when he first gets here. The biggest thing we were sold on is that he was going to have all these recruiting connections. He doesn't utilize NIL. I've got a comment from here where somebody said 502 gave nothing to Payne last year. And Zach Soskin, perfect timing because I literally had it pulled up to read it, says, you have no idea what you're talking about. Kenny Payne has as much or more at his disposal as anyone he's recruiting against. He didn't use it. I'll say it. He didn't use it. He used his own little circle of people, which is fine if you're reeling the guys in. But now all of a sudden, jobs on the line. I have good reason to believe that he knows his fate. And what does he do? He turns around and gets the guys that we always wanted and gets them to visit at the end. And now they're going to a UK game.
I got one thing to say. I got one thing to say about this kid going to UK, and that's this.
Fuck UK.
It is absolute clown shoes sabotage.
Man.
I just can't believe it, man.
Yeah.
Danny says Crawford said there's $4 million in NIL to be used. I believe it.
Yeah.
Zach, pull up that comment from Zach. 502 gave a lot more to basketball than people realize. And that's the thing, man. We are a basketball school. And from the moment Kenny Payne got here, Ross, you have said this multiple times on here. It was like he was doing us a favor. That's how he acted. I'm doing you guys a favor by taking this job. And it's bullshit. This is a basketball metropolis. People, we always get comments on this pod after the episode. Somebody comments when they watch it there and go, Louisville's a blue blood, ha, 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 and they laugh. Yes, we are not a blue blood on the level of UNC, Duke, UK, Kansas. We are in that next tier with IU, Michigan State, those type of teams.
UConn. You got to throw UConn in there.
I agree, Landon.
Actually, I would say
UConn would be at the top.
Towards the top.
They're
man, it pisses me off
right
because I
there.
don't
Get
really
on a
just
tangent on there. My point
the
is,
last decade.
look what we did with football. Look what Jeff Brom and company, Zach Soskin, look what they've been able to do in football. Brady Brom, all these guys all these resources, Furman, all those guys, they have been trailblazers in the NIL era, absolute trailblazers in football.
Mm-hmm.
It should be a gimme in basketball. And so the fact that we neglected it and we had all these resources at our disposal and just didn't use them. And now look, we're getting guys and funneling the UK games at the very end, like spitting in our faces at the end. And this is a former player, an alum, a national champion. I've never bought the idea he's a plant, and I still don't. Like, he was a plant from UK.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that. But I'll tell you what, the people that do this kind of shit here, that's the kind of shit they're talking about. Pardon my language.
Some ammo.
We're not monetized yet, so I can say.
We just wanted to circle back around. Anybody joining right now, you turned into the Third Banner Pod. Appreciate y'all being on here. Thanks for tuning in. Definitely a big show tonight, and the viewers in the chat, obviously showing that. But if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and give us a like. To help us out there on YouTube algorithm. Everything helps, and appreciate y'all being here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle, this last ditch effort I think Kenny knows he's gone, and this is his way of saying, "Hey, I was about to really get the guys that I needed, and then I was fired." So, it's his thing of, hey, I went out and I was doing what I was supposed to do, and they didn't give me a chance, which is complete BS. And it's sad that he's doing this. I mean, I hope he leaves us a little present and gets one of these guys to commit, and they find out we're about to get a top-notch coach and stay committed, because we promised them some good NIL money, but I doubt that happens. But yeah, no, this is like the end of the three-ring circus. It's the final act.
Yeah.
Sorry, hit the wrong button there.
Anybody in the chat,
technical
there's
error.
no need for the personal attacks. I just think it's it's okay to be frustrated as a fan with you've got guys visiting just so they can go to UK game. That is guys that you would normally just.
Here we go. First one.
Oh wow, I didn't even know we were eligible for that yet. So anyway. All right, that was our first donation. We're now able to take donations.
Wow.
We will never ask for them. So thank you, Awesome Lawson.
I got the approval around 5 o'clock today. So
who would have thought less than a year into this we'd be here?
Jeez.
But
a recap for his first 5.
I think you can imagine what we've talked about, Awesome Lawson.
But yeah, no personal attacks on the coach. Just but you can also be very frustrated with the amount of neglect and the fact that he came in here and he just never really valued the program the way we did, in my opinion. And he always kind of viewed himself differently from the program, alienated the fan base. And whether it was intentional or not, this stuff here, it just needs to end, because this recruitment, it just sums up the entire tenure, man. It's just one thing after another like this.
Yeah, and I think we've all said this on the show many times. I don't think anything Kenny Payne did here was intentional, in the sense that he wanted to set back the program with his moves. I think he thought what he was doing was the right thing most of the steps of the way. It just was not, and he just was not prepared for a big time college job. But that doesn't change my opinion on Kenny Payne as a player when he was here, or I don't know him as a person, so I can't say whether he's a great guy or a bad guy or whatever. It has no effect on how I view Kenny Payne, other than I just do not think he is a good head coach at the college basketball level.
Yeah.
Kyle, do you want to kind of summary up what we talked about tonight for Awesome Lawson, and just kind of the Cliff Notes version?
Yeah,
here?
Cliff Notes with Drew Deener's, obviously his comments this morning about the number one guy that we're pursuing being Scott Drew. And then we do have a second option who would take the position, apparently. We're waiting on Drew There's a number 2 guy. Deener did not know who that was. And then, of course, number 3 guy being Billy Donovan, or long shot, I should say.
Long shot,
Deener said a long shot is Billy Donovan, and not that we would get him, but that
he is in play.
He's in play to an extent. His name was thrown out there. And then we talked about Jeff Goodman's contrary report, which he says, it's going to be a lower name guy because we don't want to pay a higher buyout. We apparently don't want any sort of remote PR, anything that just any sort of PR image issues. He claims we're not going to go after it. So he had guys like Schertz, Pat Kelsey, Nico Medved, Dusty May. So we talked about the contrast between
Wagner high school coach.
We talked about Scott Drew, how hard it will be to land him. But then, what are the things that make us appealing versus what are the things that may be very difficult to overcome at Baylor? And then, of course, we talked about this recruitment and the news that came out today that this kid was visiting, and now he's going to a UK basketball game.
Yeah. And also, I think it's this would be a good time to mention that when we upload, the episodes, usually Kyle or Ash go through and bookmark our different segments so that it's easy to jump.
Kyle usually handles
stuff that you want to do.
Yeah. Get annoyed with them, but I do them. Desmond, thank you so much, man. He says, great broadcast. Desmond says, screw Jeff Goodman.
I'm right there with you, Desmond, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, you just gotta let haters hate. Lovers are gonna love. You know what I mean? Just
like control. I can't say
let people. I don't know. That the negative energy is just like, for me, it's just so bad because it just sucks you in and it just takes from you. So like guys like Jeff Goodman, like they're trying to draw the ugliness out of you for their betterment. All right. And I can't get behind that anymore. Like, I'm 40 years old. I don't have time I just ain't got time for it, man. I ain't got time for that kind of energy. So this is what he does. He likes putting thorns in fan base's sides and loves to get the attention. He doesn't care if it's negative attention towards him. That's exactly what he wants. He's made that part of his career, and it's worked. So, I mean, kudos to him. I can't participate in it. So whatever. I mean, I don't think he really has any connections around here. I'm sure he knows some people, but like, I don't think he's getting any inside track. He doesn't know. You know what I mean? He doesn't know. And like I was saying in our Discord last night too, and I'll hand it off. Like, he was doing a damn good job yesterday. It was pretty obvious he was getting ready to turn this into like a circus. And if he is really good friends with Scott Drew, then why would you do that if Drew didn't have your blessing to do that? So it just today was pretty predictable, on top of the stuff we were getting locally. So it today has gone exactly how I thought it would. And it made concentrating at work today extremely hard. I mean, extremely hard. I got ADHD and I take medicine for it. And I took my medicine at 7:45 this morning. And by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I was struggling, man. And next thing I knew, it was like 1 o'clock. Then I mean,
it's one thing after another, man.
It was like you said, Pat, it was like, if you had an NBA team that you were into, it was like that NBA trade deadline or the NFL trade deadline. I mean, it was just, there was a lot of stuff happening, man. I mean, he just couldn't stop reading it. So,
yeah, that's a good point by Brett.
Yeah, I'm glad he brought this up.
Goodman said a month ago we have plenty of money to go after someone, and now he's saying the opposite. That is a point that somebody else pointed out, and I don't remember who, but that's interesting how that changed. There's somebody, and I'm not going to say who, but somebody on Twitter that every single person that was talking about coaching candidates, they would get on there and say, we're broke. We don't have money. We don't have money. We don't have money. Well, then they replied to one of my tweets about something, and they said, well, we can give an assistant, a really good assistant.
That's funny.
They said we can give an assistant $1 or $2 million and get some new assistants in here. And I guess they didn't realize. I was like, you're the guy that says we have no money, so we can't move on from Kenny Payne. Now you're telling me we have millions of dollars to throw at a new set of assistants. that doesn't add up. And that's kind of how Goodman is. It's like you said, we had this money, but you just didn't think these candidates were available. Now that you start hearing some names, all of a sudden we don't have money. So it's just weird how that happens.
He loves being the antagonist.
He does.
He loves being the antagonist. He loves being devil's advocate, being the subjective guy that's the contrarian. He loves being the contrarian and being that person. That is his thing. That's his thing. Just take it for whatever it is. Take what else you hear. Whether you hear it here, you hear it wherever, take all that information, bottle it, try to make your own sense of it, and discern the information and find out to you what makes the most common sense. That's how you move forward with things and make logical assumptions and decisions. Some of us are better at it than others, obviously, but
that's a good point.
Everybody can practice that and get better at it.
We talked about that earlier, Mark. But you're right. None of that Deener info came from Josh. That's the same thing I was specifically told to mention if that came up earlier.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
He just I don't know where he got it, and he's confident in it, but it wasn't a herd leak. I will admit, when it first came out, I thought it was, because to me it made sense, because Goodman, he has leaked something to Goodman before in Norlander back when, he was talking about, talking to the assistants. Or not the assistants, excuse me, talking to the players about a potential interim and what that would look like. You remember when that story came out? That was a leak to them just to kind of put it out there that things were happening. So I kind of thought with Goodman coming out with something and Deener obviously being the affiliate, the vice president of the 93.9 university radio station, I thought, okay, obviously it's time to talk. But then it was made very clear that he did not direct Drew Deener to come up with those things.
Yeah,
it's not planned. It wasn't planned with a strategy. At least it doesn't sound like it, from everything we've heard.
Yeah, I don't think this is General Patton, giving the orders to, his, field lieutenants, I don't think that's what's going on here.
No.
But I think the people that do hold all the cards and are pulling all the strings, they strategically decided when they were going to let some information out, and that day was today or maybe even Monday, and it's just now discerning, it's just now disseminating its way through the ranks to where people like Deener and other people have gotten it, and now are leaking it. So I don't think it's just any conspiracy strategic thing where people are being told to do this. I don't think it's that. I just think that the powers that be that have the information, they decided to let a little bit out at this time, and they felt that now was the right time.
Uncle Larry, good to see you, man.
And Kyle, do you want to take this comment from Jeremy?
Did Goodman also say Payne was being let go sooner rather than later before Christmas?
Bye, Larry.
Jeremy, but I will say this. I think the situation changed.
Yep. That's why I kind of wanted you to address that.
Yeah, I think that situation definitely changed. I think that was on the table at that time. I don't think that was – I don't even think –
That doesn't discredit him at all.
Yeah, no, that doesn't.
I'll tell you what discredits him.
Here we go.
When he tweeted in 2010, it's truly
Did you find
sad
it?
when Louisville fans are celebrating the eligibility of Gorgie Jang. That's when he lost all credibility. Guy's a clown.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You mentioned it earlier tonight.
It's been 14 years. Pepper's
Look at the brain on that guy. He's not going to forget.
I admit
he knows numbers. He don't forget nothing. Look at that guy. Yeah,
that is my first thought of Jeff Goodman was the Gorgie Jang tweet from that long ago. Like that was always my first thought until the "I hope you like wearing orange" DM. Like now that's the first thought, and like there's other I know in the Trilly Donovan Discord somebody had leaked pictures of
somebody did on that
leaked, but photoshopped Goodman wearing orange behind prison bar. It's hilarious, man. They go crazy in there.
Zach, past few episodes actually, we've actually hit on that if you were hearing information prior it was more than likely not from U of L side, because U of L's people weren't saying anything. They weren't letting anything out. So anything that was being leaked from the agent side. You're 100% right about that. It's
we on this call, we've always tried to caveat that and tell people these are names we're hearing from the agent side, but always take it with a grain of salt and realize there are hidden agendas upon hidden agendas. Sometimes it's to stay at their current school to get leverage. Sometimes it's to shoot for another job that has nothing to do with your job. But if they can use a prestigious school like Louisville and say they're interested, it puts pressure on another job. There's all kind of different reasons why people do that. And so it's really hard to know.
You gotta,
I guess that's
when you're little guys like us, it's hard to differentiate.
You gotta have leverage. Whenever you're trying to negotiate or bargain anything, you're talking about positions of power, positions of high responsibility that control a lot of money. It's always good to have leverage in your pocket on your side, because you can get the things that you want. You can get more power, get more money. That's just the way. That's the way the world works. That's the way this world works, anyways. And
I gotta ask one question. Hey Ty, what do you think of the audience we got in here tonight?
5-star in my book.
You know what about that clip? Is Ross is spinning like this? I don't know why. I have no idea.
Wait a minute. Let me see it again. Let me see it again. Do it again.
Oh, well, we got another chat comment from awesome Clids, like just serious. Who has more punchable face, Deener or Goodman?
There.
I'm not going to go there. Thanks for the support, but I'm not going to go
even
there.
The Jeff Goodman shade is just like trolling back. I don't want it to get personal. On here, now we can't control the comments, but we appreciate the donation. I do want to say, and I know Zach is a busy guy. I think it would be really awesome, when this coaching stuff gets figured out, if he could talk about the basketball side of NIL. We've heard about the football side. I think basketball, we've just been going through a lot for one reason or another. It'd be awesome to get him on. I'm not saying he has to do it, but it'd be awesome to get him on here sometime and have him break that down. But I know you're a busy guy.
I'm curious about Couch House's comment here, asking what Flyville 25 is looking like.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I'm going to just say, I think that, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for the guy, but he's here right now. All right. He came into the chat. I wouldn't say that it's a long shot that we could get him on the show as a guest in the future.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be, when this all settles out, we'll reach out sometime.
There it is. Yeah. There it is.
Because
on social, you know where to find us.
I think it would be so interesting to know how the collective works for basketball. Now, I remember, I'll never forget when Zach got on one of the shows, and I don't remember if it was on Ethan Moore, Louisville Sports Live. It was on a show, and he talked about how, Louisville sets up players for, career development and sets them up for they don't just give them a big wad of cash and say, here you go. They actually network and make connections that they can utilize later when they, develop, whether it's professionally, when they go on to the league and NFL, or whether it's in some other way. And I thought that was really neat. And he really broke down how that they sell that in football. And it was a very interesting interview. So I wish I could remember. I think it was Louisville Sports Live with Ethan, but I cannot definitely say that because my memory sucks anymore. But I would love to hear in basketball, stuff about that, breaking it down, how it works in basketball sometime. Somebody said, biggest KP he is. I'm not going to highlight that comment, but shout out to all the boosters and friends of the program. Zach says he's right. There's a ton of them. And there's a lot. We're sitting on a gold mine, guys, with whatever coach we get. We have to get this hire right, but we are sitting on a gold mine.
I mean, I'm going to let Pat go after this, but because I think he was trying to get something in here a second ago. But I mean, I have always believed in something that Jurich instilled in a lot of us people, fans, our age, our generation, when Jurich arrived on the scene here. We are a sleeping giant. And I mean, I know Howard said that too, but Jurich expanded on that, and he really helped us believe it in a lot of ways, not just in basketball, everything. But where basketball is right now, we keep saying it can't get any worse. So I hate to even use those words, but there's so much potential and so much room to grow from where we were to where we are right now. The future's bright, man. You just, like you said, Kyle, you got to get the right guy in here. It's the right person. It takes one person, and with the way NIL and the transfer portal set out now, the rebuild can happen so quick. So quick.
Yeah. Again, I think our kind of feed off of that. I think our NIL situation, and I mean Zach probably knows, it is a good one, and I think, as Kyle alluded to earlier, that's going to be the tipping point for a big time coach. Is, can Louisville get me the money I need to get the ballers that I need
and win a title?
Yeah, and I think, based off of what I've heard, and I don't have any inside information, less than anybody on here, but based off of what I've read, what I gather, we've got good NIL funds. Football's kind of proven that, but I think there's probably a question out there. Is football benefiting NIL-wise because basketball is down? And when basketball starts to produce again, is that going to cut into football?
It's only going to get better. It's only going to get better.
I think that is a no. I think football's funds are football's funds, and you'll see basketball funds up, and I think they're already good when basketball comes back. And like Zach just said,
what I would think, Zach.
When there's multiple programs at the school succeeding, especially
those coffers grow, man. Those coffers support each other.
Yeah, the coffers grow each other. They feed off of each other. So,
which means if our basketball and our football programs are rolling, then you've got more in NIL for the non-revenue sports like baseball and softball and field hockey and dive and swimming and tennis and just track and field. All of that. It all feeds into itself, which was the main directive of Tom Jurich when he got here. He believed in the fulfillment of building an entire athletic department and it being synergistic and feeding on all the program success throughout the year, using that as publicity, using that as good propaganda for your brand to grow your brand for your next sport that was coming up in that following season, to keep the brand name always relevant. So that's what I'm saying, Zach. Like it's the complete opposite. It's going to make the coffers grow exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point I was trying to make. I don't think anything's going to cut into the football funds. I think it's a something that feeds off of each other. And once basketball's back, man, you're going to see even more money going to the 502. So
I agree, Trent. Get Connor out there today. Come on, Connor.
Mark Ennis is here. Mark is here because you're casually dropping synergistic. I've learned that Mark likes fancy words.
But Ross does too.
They have to come natural.
Ross does too. He's an eloquent man over here.
Yeah, I mean, little do you know, I like to burn. Little do you know, I like to burn a mental sweat too. Oh man, I'm so stupid.
Well, so
you know what's awesome is like when you set the bar so low like I do, you can only impress people. It's kind of like when you're going out on a date with a girl. My buddy always had this theory, and I had it back.
Ross.
Yeah, I know, I get it. He said guys always try to talk themselves up. He's like, I'm just upfront and honest with a girl about how this is not going to be your best time of your life. And, and somehow it works and they just settle for the honesty and it works, so just be honest,
Okay.
Seeing as how we probably have some new viewers, I just had to point out that it's 269 days until we beat Kentucky in Commonwealth Stadium.
Eat that ass.
Hey, listen.
Are you guys are we really setting up an on-site pod?
We are. We are going to do. You don't have to be there, Kyle, but I announced this a long time ago. We are going to have a remote.
The look is because I'm
pod.
conflicted.
an official tailgate in Lexington on game day for the U of L UK game. I am 100% about it.
I'm going to camp out the day before, and I'm going to set up our thing right at the stadium.
I know Connor's helping us scout out a location. And as the fall gets here, that's when we'll announce all the details. But we are having an official Third Banner Pod tailgate in Lexington.
Shout out to the Circle. Shout out to Dan Furman and company. He's a machine. Lots of great folks working for AB.
For sure.
So yeah,
Tron, you my dude, man. Let's go.
The look,
Tron, let's go.
The look was of conflict because I know how their fans are at Commonwealth, but and some of them have trolled our show, on Twitter and this and that. They'll be looking for us. So
yeah, they'll be yelling.
They're in here right now. Here right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen comment, but you're probably right. That being said, like that is a thing, man. It would be so much fun. Well, as far as I did want to talk about, though, as far as where we're at right now, obviously the coaching stuff starting to heat up as far as what we're hearing, but we have one more regular season game left, and then I think that's when it's going to get interesting. I am curious, and that's all. This is all I'm going to say about it. I am curious what happens after that game and before the ACC championship, if anything. And I'll leave it there. I'm not going to say another word. Just leaving it there. I'm curious. That gets you in the Sunday, going into early next week. I'm just curious if anything, if we hear any scoop, I'll be watching.
Game Saturday, right? Game Saturday.
Saturday. I think evening, but I don't know.
I think that, to me, I don't think it's unrealistic to think that we hear that he's been dismissed maybe Sunday, and then we get a formal announcement Monday early, maybe an 10, 11 o'clock press conference, something like that from Hurd, and get him in front of cameras.
I don't know if he would do the press conference. Here's what
he has to say something publicly.
Well, no, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking he'll finish the season.
Yeah.
And then, I'm thinking he'll still – what I'm guessing, and this is –
no.
I'm guessing that he's going to come out. I'm guessing he's going to come out, and it's going to come out that, like, hey, before the ACC championship game, Kenny Payne will not be the coach at Louisville next year, however they word it, and he'll finish the year, is my guess. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
you're asking. There's nothing needs to be said. We don't need to do that.
Going to go up to the podium.
Yeah.
Like, if he announces it and then he's still the coach, I think he would wait. I just think it would be like, hey, some sort of news outlet would be like, or somebody would tweet it and say, hey, as of the end, this is his final season.
That's Danny. That's a good point, man. I mean, Danny, like after tonight, you don't even how can you? I mean, there's just so many things that are piling up.
Though, Ross, how many times have we sat down here and said there's no way?
I know, but that looks like a dereliction of duty right there. And the only thing that you could not go hold it against it is,
I don't agree with that.
Is that the only thing that you couldn't hold against it is that the kid's here on his own dime, right? It's not an official. It's not an official visit. It's not U of L's money, so the kid's free to go anywhere he wants to. But the kid did visit you. You set up an arrangement, and he's visiting UK tonight.
Yeah. All right. So I think this is a bad look, and it is kind of weird. But unofficial visits happen all the time, where a player goes somewhere and then goes somewhere else in the same day. I think this was done maybe on purpose,
Neil.
But I don't. This isn't like a fireable offense because it happens all the time.
Well,
right. That's what I'm saying. If it had been an official visit and this happened, that's different.
No, I don't think anything's gonna happen because I mean, if it happens, it does. But man, I've seen so many other things. I'm like, how can that doesn't even make the list for me? We did the 20 biggest mishaps. Although I don't know, having a player visit and go straight.
That show was awesome, by the way. Shows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that's
kind
another
of like
thing. We were going to do the. So go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
Trent, I'm not going to put your comment on the screen, but I love that question.
I think last summer Bradshaw visited UK and then was here later that day. So this stuff happens. the timing of how this one has happened is very suspicious. But this is not like an extremely uncommon thing for an unofficial visitor to go visit a school next to the school that they just visited.
I did want to say, whoever was expecting us to do, I originally tweeted out a few days ago, like 3 days ago, that we were going to do a coaching tournament bracket where we put the coaches head to head. We had a bunch of metrics to go head to head. I think it would have been really badass. But then all the Deener and Goodman, all that stuff dropped, and it just took precedence. So we're wondering where that's at. I did tweet that we're not going to do it now. That's why we didn't do it.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, so sorry. I just saw Neil's comment on the screen there about it's uncommon when your coach knows he's about to get fired. I mean, we didn't really touch on this a whole lot.
Say it, but
yeah, but this is twice now. Like when the rumors were getting hot that Kenny was possibly about to get let go, Carter Knox was magically visiting, and he's like, "Oh, we're just dangling this carrot," and now we're right here where we are. It's as hot as it's been again, and now we're dangling a recruit carrot in front of the fan base. This is not carried out or operated in the same way, but this is the same type of stuff that Calipari has done to the fan base down the road year after year, especially years when he has down years and they undersucceed. It's okay. I've got the next best thing that's about to come in, and we're going to do so much better next year. Like, you can't fall for that time and time again. We've seen 2 years of what this is now. And I hit on it. I don't know, last pod or the pod before, I thought, but you got a situation. Scott Satterfield was not my favorite. I thought he was mediocre. I always thought he was mediocre. I hated that hire, but he at least could win some games. But my thing,
feel Ross's anger when he says,
"Yeah, dude." My thing with Scott was with this great the thing with Scott with this great recruiting class was I had zero faith that he was going to be able to do a damn thing with it. I didn't trust in him. And that's the same with Kenny. Like, you've shown me nothing within this program that you've put together in 2 years, the organization, the functionality, nothing about it is functional at all to where you show me that you will make our program prosper to a better level than 12 wins next year with kids like that. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and I'm not falling for that. I only get in the van for so many candy bars so many times. You know what I mean? Like,
Ross in the van, whether he's driving or getting in. That's a scary thought. No, hey Neil,
I see some interesting Zach comments.
When I say that it's common, listen. This situation is uncommon. I've seen comments, and I saw on Twitter that people think like we can fire Kenny for this and get out of paying him his $6 million.
You're not going to get out of paying him.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying this stuff. There's no way to fire a guy for someone coming on an unofficial visit and then going somewhere else on an unofficial visit in the same day. But yes, the situation is very weird and suspicious. Let's just say that.
Zach, I was just typing it in the chat, but I hear you. Your comment. I'm glad that it happened, though, man. It couldn't have worked out better. That was the best case scenario about what that man chose to do with his life and take it away from here.
I'll just never forget our Discord. The morning it just
I'm sorry that you did put in all that hard work and effort, though, man. I am, but I know that we're gonna be just fine. Like, I have no doubt.
I think, yeah, it is normal that they do multiple visits, but it's just funny when you're hearing that a guy is probably going to commit to you while a coach is on his way out. Obviously,
he's not cooking, is he?
And then that same night he ends up going to watch a game at your rival, which, oh, by the way, that part was just conveniently left out till it happened. It just doesn't, some things just don't pass the smell test. And that's fine because, like I said, a few more days, just get through the season. And this is why it's risky whenever you bring a former player in here as a coach, because it can end bad, and it's unfortunate. It was always a hesitancy I had bringing them in here, but we're not going to go down the path. We're not going to go down that road.
We've talked about it enough already.
Yes, we have. So I don't want to be a repeat. But I was just thinking about the Discord that morning when we found out that Sat took the Cincinnati job. I don't remember who it was in our Discord, but somebody got tipped off, and I remember they said, "Is somebody that works in athletics?" And they were like, "It's weird. They just called about Sat. Cincinnati did, and like we all
was it Norse card?
I don't know, but we all laughed it off because it was just like, why Cincinnati calling out Scott Satterfield? And like a week went by, I think, and then all of a sudden, what happened out of the blue. But it was like at the time you didn't think that was it was like, well, that's just they must just be calling every coach trying to just gouge who they can get. Because you just didn't think at the time like he was leaving on his own to go to Cincinnati. So, but then of course all the context of it comes out, why he left and what he wanted to stay, and it all made sense. But at the time when somebody, it's just, I guess what I'm saying is you never know what little innocuous comment's going to be thrown out there because you get so much BS all the time. It doesn't happen, and there's one little comment that you read and you don't even think about it, and it ends up being a bomb later. It's just weird how the world works like that sometimes.
Yeah, I remember that day, and I remember opening Discord, and it wasn't a tweet. Somebody was like, Scott Satterfield's going to Cincinnati. And there's some trolling that goes on in our Discord. So
people mess around all the time.
100.
I was like, this is a joke, And then 5 minutes later, I'm on Twitter, and I'm like, oh my God, this came out of nowhere. This is kind of good news,
Yeah.
So,
I was on my way to work. I remember exactly where I was. Okay, so I was in my car. I was on Hurstbourne /Fern Valley Road. I was coming up to the intersection of Fagenbush and Hurstbourne or Fern Valley, whatever you want to call it at that point. And Deener and Blank are on the radio, and they're like, Scott Satterfield is taking the Cincinnati job, and I was like, ding, 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 like the robot on the Jetsons, Lucy. Dude, I was like, whoa, what? Like I was like, yes. I was so happy, dude. I was like, get him out of here. You're out of here, man.
Now we know what caused the accident on Hurstbourne Road that day.
I thought it was a troll tweet. Like, how, and that was back, I think, when
so
I don't
happy.
know if that was right when Elon took over. Do you remember when Elon took over and all people started buying the blue checks and putting the names of
the fake stuff? Yeah.
Of the established people who have the blue check mark and then trolling. I thought it was one of those things where I was like, this is not the, and then you go check the account. And it's like they have like 200,000 followers. Okay, this is legit. It was wild though. I remember I pulled over, and I live out in the middle of nowhere. Y'all know that, but
it was crazy for me because like
I pulled over and scrolled the whole Discord for like 10 straight minutes, just like looking at all the comments. And then I turned it on 93.9. They're on there.
You had to watch out for a wild turkey on the road, didn't you?
Yeah, until turkey season, and they all run.
I was in meetings like all day at work, and so I hadn't checked the Discord at all. And I didn't see the news until like 3:00 that afternoon Central Time. And so it was like, I had just totally missed all the peak of the joy from everybody else. So it was just a crazy day. And one of the best things I ever found when I opened up a Discord and see that Scott Satterfield was gone.
The new head coach for basketball, whenever we get to that point, that's going to be wild.
It'll be the second best day.
It's going to be wild here. It's going to be wild in there.
You know what, though? I will say the first really good day was when we hired Chris Mack. I was exuberant about that. I was overjoyed when we hired Chris Mack. I thought it was going to be a slam dunk.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll see you around, Mark. Speaking of, go ahead, Pat.
One thing I kind of wanted, because we didn't really talk, and this is going back to the coaching stuff in Deener, but we didn't really talk. We kind of mentioned, but didn't really talk about Deener's comment that Louisville is putting pressure on Drew to make a decision.
We touched on it, but yeah, we didn't go in depth.
And not to go in depth and say whether that's the Hurd's making a mistake or what, but it's an interesting it's an interesting strategy if that's indeed the strategy. And I said I'm worried about the second coach, but if that's the strategy, it does give me a little bit of hope that the second option is a really good coach too, because you don't do that
unless you're worried about losing that coach also.
Right, unless your second coach that you could lose is someone that you think is very good.
Yeah.
That and I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fine line. That's why you get paid the big bucks, and that's why you're in the heavy is a head that wears a crown, because there's not an easy answer. Because if you put all your if you have a chance at Scott Drew and you don't wait it out long enough, a part of you is going to wonder, could I have gotten him? But then if you wait too long and he shuns you, now you're scrambling, and you don't want to be scrambling, especially with the transfer portal. One thing I don't like about the portal is when it opens. I hate that the portal opens in the middle of March. I wish it would wait until after. I wish it would wait till after the tournament's completely done, because it just seems like, you've got to – it's really important when you're going to lose a bunch of guys to a new coach and roster turnover that you get a guy in there as soon as possible. But what if your guy makes a big run? Obviously, you're not going to just abandon him, but that run hurts you in a way, unless the guys all agree to come there that he wants. But it's really hard for them to focus on getting guys out of portal while they're trying to, make a tournament run. And sure, you have guys that do that for you while you focus on it. But at the end of the day, you're the coach and you have your assistants. They have to have some contact and some rapport with portal guys before a portal guy is going to come there. So it's really going to be hard to balance that. So to get back to my point about Hurt is it's a very fine line between giving somebody like Scott Drew enough time and respect that he can actually weigh it and potentially take the position, but then also saying like, I really need a decision by then, and it's no attempt to rush you, but if you don't want this position, I need to know, because I gotta get these guys lined up for portal season, whoever the next guy is. And that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, you also run the risk if Scott Drew says, "Hey, man, I'm interested, but I'm in middle of the season of a big season here at Baylor, and I'd rather concentrate on that and talk about it after the season." You run the risk there. If Baylor goes on a deep run, you're not only missing out portal wise, but you're missing out on a lot of coaching movement. Of other guys you could hire, where you are in a horrible place if he then says no. So it's like you said, that's why the ADs and the good ones get paid a lot of money, because they have to be able to do a little fortune telling there and say, hey, what is it worth me waiting? Do I put pressure? Do I move on? Do I signal that I'm going to hire somebody else so that this guy comes back and says something? There's a lot of behind the scenes strategy that ADs and people in the athletic department have to consider, man. It's not a easy job for sure.
Yeah. And I think too, like when we say putting pressure, this is hypothetically, because listen, I mean, this is just us kind of like reading the room, reading the situation. If it is from U of L and it's true that we're putting pressure, our people are putting a pressure on Drew's, intermediaries and his agent. It's more like, hey, we need to have some sort of deal in principle that on something to give us something of good faith to say that you are going to be the guy, so we can start to move on next on our end to better help you with this job when you get here. It's a beneficial thing, but you just can't, like Pat said before, that second person, that's the mystery person, it's got to be somebody good. It has to be somebody really good, because you're worried that if it carries on too long, that somebody's coming to get that person. And I just think that there's all these weird dynamics going. You got that. And like I was saying before, if the mystery person is somebody that good, but they're not garnering more attention, then they probably got some baggage. And then you're looking, that really narrows that pool. So who could that be? We don't know. But if it was somebody like a Pat Kelsey, a Sprinkle, the dude at Indiana State,
Josh
yeah, I mean, you don't put a timeline like that on Scott Drew for somebody like that. That doesn't happen. That does not happen.
That's a good point, because I mean, when you get to that level, I would agree. But I always try to think of the counter argument, which is at another job. Like let's say West Virginia, for example. That's not Louisville,
Right.
but that's a good job. And for somebody like a Josh Schertz, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know Josh Schertz, obviously. I don't know anything about his preferences, but you would have to think if West Virginia reached out and was like, hey, man, we have a position. If we're sitting there waiting on something, so I can kind of see the argument that may not be applicable just because of the competition. But I do also see your point of, it could be very well be that you wait it out.
Yeah.
It's a gamble for everybody when you wait. It's a gamble for the candidates. It's a gamble for you. It's just a gamble all around it. Somebody's going to make a move another direction the longer you wait.
Yeah, I mean, you can wait on somebody like Pat McRoy. You can.
Yeah,
Pat McGroy.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just make up a name, or is that like an inside joke?
Oh, I said that was supposed to be Pat McCrotch. I'm sorry.
Oh, hey, I had a teacher in elementary school middle school. I'm sorry, 6th grade. I think Patty Mae Crotchet. That was her first middle and last name.
Poor woman.
Poor woman indeed. Talking about
We used to prank call this lady in the phone book all the time, Fanny Butts, and I.
All right, Pat, what were you going to say before we went off the rails here?
Well, we now know what Ross did as a child. But no, I was going to say that the theme about, and the way I took it when I listened to Deener this morning is it's not like, hey, we're going to apply pressure to Scott Drew in a couple weeks. It sounded like we were starting to apply that pressure, and the timing of applying the pressure now is why I think the second option has to be a tier up from some of those mid-major guys, because
absolutely
in a couple weeks, if we're looking at a Josh Schertz, then you can probably wait 1 or 2 more weeks to apply that pressure. But I took it as we are starting to, hey, nudge Scott along. Hey, guy, we need to start, getting the details ironed out on this. So that's why I'm kind of like that kind of excited me for who the number 2 could be. And then I read Goodman's article and I was no longer
became flaccid.
The roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
Zach Sauce, good thank you for being on, sir.
The thing that had me a little nervous is if maybe we're putting the pressure on our number 1 because maybe we're worried our number 2 option is starting to become a leading candidate somewhere else. And so, is that Dustin May and looking at Ohio State?
You're right. And that's why I said earlier.
That scares me.
That's why I said earlier, like, you can do mental gymnastics and convince them. We're not.
But that's the fun thing about a coaching.
It is. And
I know there are people that watch that they don't like this kind of stuff. That's fine. You don't have to watch. But when you're product, like, I love breaking down the games. I do. When the product doesn't have the repeated issues over the course of 2 seasons, and to the point where, like, I watch the games as a chore now because it's no longer a thing of enjoyment, and then people don't want to hear about it. So, and I don't want, if you don't want to talk about it and people don't want to hear about it, you talk about other things. And I mean, to me, it is fun to talk about hypotheticals because you don't know. We have no problem admitting we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on with a lot of this stuff, but that's what makes it kind of fun. You get all these tidbits, you have to parse what you believe and what you don't, and knowing the whole time you really just don't know. And but that also kind of makes it fun. It makes it suspenseful.
Mhm.
Like women like to gossip about like what their friends are doing or who's dating who. And did you hear about this happening? But men,
I told you that
and I'm
bitch
not saying,
crazy.
I don't want to be said.
Vanderpump
There are some men that will gossip like that, and there are some women who may be listening to the Third Banner Pod right now. But in general, like a group of dudes, when you get together, you want to gossip about coaches and the Deener scoop and the Goodman scoop. And so it's just fun. It's fun. It's exciting. It gives you hope. It gives you a feeling that things are going to get better. You know,
And we got that today. I'm
Andy Dufresne. I'm Andy Dufresne on Shawshank Redemption. You know, hope is a good thing. I'm digging that damn tunnel.
Sometimes
I'm
the best of everything.
and I'm coming out clean on the other side. And the half mile of shit is getting through this season. And I'm crawling. I've been chiseling for 2 years, for 2 seasons now. I've been chiseling behind. What's the woman's name? Rita Hayworth. Behind Rita Hayworth's poster.
No,
digging through
Raquel
that
Welch.
Shit. That
Raquel
was
Welch.
Now let me tell you, from knowing Kyle for, you know, through message boards and Discord for, gosh, probably
20 years,
7, 8 years.
I was going to say a lot of us know each other from that for a long time.
I know Kyle has hope, but let me tell you, he takes stops in those piles of crap to cry a little bit, because the hope goes away for about 30 minutes until he gets another piece of news. So there's times where he's taking naps in those piles of crap on the way out of Shawshank.
I mean,
when you're in prison, Pat, you're not gonna. I don't believe anybody be positive all the time, Pat.
Hey, listen, I'm not positive.
Remember when Andy Dufresne had to meet those guys in the back of the cinema, the movie room? What happened to him? I don't think that was. I doubt he was like, hope is a good thing, but he did. He came out of it. That's me. I'm Andy. We're in the prison that is Louisville basketball right now, but we're crawling through the tunnel of shit, and we can see the daylight. It's there.
We're almost there, boys.
We just gotta hope that warden, that crooked warden, doesn't catch us. Which I guess in this case, I'm not saying Josh Hurt is crooked, but Josh Hurt is the warden, and he's got to let us get to the other side. Yeah. He's controlling the program, which is the prison. He's going to free us, the fans, which we are the inmates. Josh Hurt is the warden. He's going to be the one. He's the new warden that took over. He was forced upon a prison that had some issues and said, hey, these are the guys you have to get in there to run the prison. But now Hurt gets to pick his own dudes, and he's going to free us, the fans of prisoners, so we can be free like Andy Dufresne at the end when the rain's pouring down his face and he's just like this. That's going to be me when all
and Ross is Morgan Freeman. You know, he's cool-headed the whole time. He's positive, and he's out there building the boat.
No, because Red said hope. There's no place for hope. That's what he told me.
Yeah, Red was very pessimistic.
That is true.
Yeah.
I will say though.
I just connected the dots. I got to interrupt. All these Shawshank analogies indicate that the coach can only be one person. It's got to be Chris Beard.
What? Why?
Morgan Freeman's a season ticket holder at Ole Miss.
He was. Oh, he is.
There you go.
There we go.
You heard it here first.
Quite polarizing plot twist.
That is awesome, Ash. Let me just say this then, and it's going to be a poor attempt, okay? But anybody that watches Family Guy, and if they ever saw the Shawshank episode on Family Guy, and Cleveland was playing the role of narrating Morgan Freeman, and let's just hope that at the end it is like we're not saying why Andy chose Enchilada Night to crawl out of that pile of shit. I will never know. Like
we need Neil on here to do the
old
man.
Hopefully we're not choosing the wrong time to crawl out, man. I just say that.
I do think that Pat's kind of sold me on Billy Donovan being a better candidate than I initially was thinking too. So props to Pat on that.
Listen,
I think I've got a better chance of being next Louisville coach than Billy Donovan. Not because they would want me to be the coach.
No, I'm not saying that he's my favorite. I'm just saying that like before I was like,
I don't think it's awesome.
now like thinking more about the things that Pat had to say. I think he's, it's come around on me a little bit. But speaking of home run
I just
hires,
get odds of me becoming a coach, because Billy Donovan's I just don't see it happening.
I don't think it's a likely candidate, but if he were to be hired, I don't think I would be as disappointed as I initially thought.
Sure.
But speaking of home run hires, guys, baseball has now won 8 games in a row, and 7 out of 8 games they've scored 10 or more runs. So the bats have come to life, and I just had to acknowledge that fact.
I knew where you were going.
A week ago, I was really down on the program after we started off 0-4. JT Benson been killing the ball lately.
Hope is a good thing.
A lot of our young
really
guys.
Excited about where we're going and looking forward to the season we've got or the rest of the season, the ACC coming up. Today we beat Moorhead 19-5. This weekend we got Northwestern coming in to Jim Patterson Stadium. So if you guys are local, make sure you get out there and watch the baseball team. Ross, have you made it out to any games yet?
I have not. I want to try to get out there Friday, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get off work in time to do it. Thinking maybe either Saturday or Sunday, whatever day is going to be the better weather day. I think when I was looking a few days ago, it was going to be Sunday, but obviously that was looking, I think, Monday, looking at Saturday. The forecast is going to change and become a lot more accurate within that 72, 48-hour window as it gets closer. So I'll probably check that out tonight once I get here off the pod. And I definitely want to get down there for sure. Like I said on the pod few weeks ago, I mean, I don't have the highest expectations for this baseball team, but I think it's a team that the fan base could really rally around after what we've had to endure this winter with this basketball season, So it's glad to see that things are kind of going in a much more positive direction, like you said. And like you were saying, Pat, the young guys, that's looking like that's going to be the key for the bullpen. The kind of way it's shaping out right now, they're just going to have to grow with the young guys. The guys they brought in from the JUCOs and transfers might just end up being your relief guys. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, and that's kind of what makes me excited. Is typically when you have a young team, they grow as the season goes on. Mm-hmm. So. Last year we kind of plateaued and fell off. I'm hoping you get some growth out of this team, since there are a lot of talented young players and some talented newcomers. And we
Brigade, Brian,
take off.
Yeah, I agree with last year.
Yep, I agree, Pat.
We're on the Way Brigade. I wouldn't say Wade my first choice, but he's up there.
Yeah,
some good comments here in the last few minutes, though. I just wanted to go back to don't forget how big of a disaster Baylor was when Scott Drew was hired. That was a good comment, because that was as low of a place as you could be after all that took place. Back in 03, 04.
Morally,
somebody tried to say
ethically awful.
I about died. Somebody on Twitter was like, how is he going to come in here and rebuild this program from the bottom? You guys aren't going to give him. Like, are you kidding me?
It was worse.
There's one guy
that
can come in and rebuild this program.
That Carlton Dotson thing, that was
awful, man.
That's as bad as it can get right there.
Yeah.
Tell me, the athletic department and the coaches were trying to cover up a murder of a player done by another player, so the player could potentially get off on murder charges, so they could have him for the remainder of the year. Like, how effed up and morally bankrupt are you when you're doing that sort of thing? And that's the thing. Not to get off topic, but that's the thing that really pissed me off when the NCAA handed down our judgment, and you got that woman reading out the terms, and they're using terms like repugnant. I'm like, are you serious? Repugnant? I'm like, get out of here with that. Like, my mind immediately went to stuff like that with Dave Bliss and Baylor. I'm like, more like repugnant. Get out of here, man.
100% you're notorious, JP.
Yeah. So if he does end up, I don't think he's worried about that. And plus, he got the NI, and I responded to a tweet online, and I was like, and you got the NIL and transfer portal. You didn't even have that back then. So you can.
Some of them
We're not
got
going
the
to get into the whole
ability.
you can turn a roster over in an off season. We've talked about it so many times on here, but
Ad
I've
nauseam.
given so many examples as well. I don't know,
I don't
guys.
really have anything else.
It's
You
getting
guys got
kind of late,
anything else?
guys.
Pat,
Man,
any
this
last
is-
words tonight?
What's that? Last
Any
word?
last words?
I mean, I'm ready for since I can't enjoy watching my team in March Madness, I'm pretty pumped about this coaching carousel season, man. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun for our listeners because I mean, I think tonight's episode was fun just because you get to hear all the rumors, get to get a bunch of people's opinions on it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next month. Man, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Kyle, what would you think last words tonight?
You say me or Ross? I'm sorry.
Kyle.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see what happens. I mean, it sounds like things are really starting to roll now as of today with those 2 stories coming out. And of course, you have all this recruiting stuff. A lot going on right now. It's about to pick up big time. Appreciate you guys being on. Please like and subscribe. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and you enjoy the content. We would love to continue to expand our audience, being a young upstart podcast. We're about 1 year in. We started the last game, our first real episode after a couple pilot episodes we kind of did on our own, was the end of last season, the final game. So we're there. We're a year into this. Really good audience tonight. We appreciate your all's interaction. Any feedback you have for us, try to just be respectful because, I mean, hey, everybody's got feedback, both positive and negative. Just be respectful. We definitely will listen to people that are respectful and address us directly, so just keep that in mind. So we appreciate y'all listening.
Yeah, definitely want to follow up that. And we're saying, make sure you hit that like and subscribe, like Kyle was saying. Hit the thumbs up on this video below. Appreciate you guys over this last year through our journey. And when we started with this, we had no idea where it was going, and really appreciate each and every one of you. If you're in the area, make sure you can get out to baseball at some point. Like I said, this weekend they're playing Northwestern, and it's a young team with some good bats out there, and they could use the support. And be on the lookout here in the coming weeks, and we'll get information out regarding our official tailgate for the spring game in the next few weeks as well. But thank you guys for watching. Ross, finish us up. Take us home.
Guys, I just want to say thank you, guys, girls, everybody that tunes in. Thank you for being here and supporting us, supporting the pod. We're all fans here. We might disagree on certain things, but in the end, we all want the same thing. We just have a different way of agreeing about it and getting there. But we want the same thing. We want to be cheering at the highest levels that we've all been used to before. So thank you for tuning in and being a viewer. And others have said like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. I want to send a special thank you to those that donated tonight. Thank you, man. Like I'm getting goosebumps.
Thanks, Trace, for donating.
Thanks, Trace, man.
And that's a good
I'm
donation.
getting I get goosebumps just saying that. Like, I never thought I would be. It might seem little to some people. It's not to me. It's not lost on me. Like, I never thought I'd be a part of a podcast that people, like, we would have a platform where people could donate to. Like, that's crazy. Like, so thank you so much, because this wouldn't be possible without you all. And just really, really appreciate y'all. So thank you. And we look forward to growing this thing. Coming up, Ash is moving back home. We're going to probably have a lot more, and I don't want to say a lot more, but we're going to have pods in person. I'm very, very excited about growing the brand going forward here soon over the next few months. So we'll see what happens, and stay with us, and we're going to keep bringing that content that you like. So thank you.
Just remember, every like is $1 million towards getting Scott Drew to Louisville.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
It'll pay his
I would just say,
10 years.
like we always say, we'll end it with go Cards, go Kroger, baby.
Go
Let's
Cards.
go.
Cards.
Cards go Publixing.
10 days I'll be in Louisville.